So why are you guys out here this evening?
Why else would we be out here? This is Trump. This is celebrating Trump, and we're here to really show him off and show all his attributes. He's a great guy, you know. Look at him doing his thing. He's not afraid to do what he wants to do. You know what I mean? Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Really showing off his...
Makes America great. Love, not hate. Makes America great.
Hey everybody, I'm your host Elad, and today I'm reporting to you from Union Square Park, where we have anti-Trump and anti-wall protesters. They're calling it a fake national emergency. Let's go talk to some people and see what they think.
Not hate. Makes America great.
Here that says, what's Trump hiding? So I wanted to ask you, what do you think Trump's hiding?
What do we think? Not quite sure. Connections to Russia. Maybe Russia helped get him into power. Yeah.
So do you have any evidence for that, or did you where did you hear that, and why do you think there's a relationship between Trump and Putin here? Because I see these are the Russian dolls. It's one inside of the other.
Yeah. Can we talk to everyone here?
Yeah. So I saw all your guys' signs. We have no wall, no emergency here.
Yes.
What do you think about Trump calling for a national emergency to build the border wall?
Oh, I'm so disgusted and angered by it. It's completely inappropriate. It's completely overreaching his powers. The Congress does not want it. The American people do not want it. And for him to be subverting the democracy, the democratic process, just because this is what he wants, is outrageous.
I want to ask, do you think it's more of an executive overreach problem or a wall problem in general? So are you more anti-executive overreach and you think that's the issue, or do you just not like the wall and you think we shouldn't be able to have one?
I think the bigger problem right now is the executive overreach, but I think that the wall itself is a tremendous problem. I come from a refugee background. My father was a refugee to this country. I've done a lot of work with refugee resettlement over the years. My husband is actually an immigrant. Our friends are immigrants. The president's wife is actually an immigrant who came here illegally.
Well, Trump's not anti-immigrant. He's anti-illegal immigrant, right?
Which his wife was, right? Our first, she came, she overstayed her visa.
Okay, and then applied for... I'm just not familiar.
Yeah, I guess then she married him and you can get... Right. No, but she was absolutely not here. And in her case...
Or a working visa, because she was a model at the time.
Initially it was a working visa. Yeah. But the point is, she came by an airplane. She didn't come over the southern border, and most of the people who come and stay illegally are coming in on airplanes. Yeah. The people who are coming in on the southern border are true refugees. They're in great need. It's their legal right to seek asylum. Okay. And this country has been founded on people. Yeah.
Is it asylum, or are we calling all immigrants who want to come to America asylum seekers, or do we have any qualifications that make it such that we should bring them in? Because I know many of them are economic refugees, and it makes sense because there's a better opportunity for a better quality of life here. But I don't know. Does that mean we should bring everybody in, or should we only just bring in true asylum seekers?
So I believe that people who want to come to this country and help make this country even better have every right to come.
Open borders.
We have a legal system that there are laws for how people get the right to stay here. Mm-hmm. And, every case of someone coming over the border, whether it's at the southern border or at the airport, everyone has their own situation. Some people are coming for economic reasons. Many of the people who are coming over the southern border, I think, are fearing persecution and death, which goes beyond economic. Absolutely, anyone who's seeking asylum deserves to have their case heard.
Okay. I also wanted to ask, so many proponents of the walls are citing small success stories. So in El Paso and in San Diego, they have walls that they really enjoy, and they've said help them reduce crime there. Should we still allow certain cities that decide they want walls at the southern border to have them?
Yeah, if it's a small wall and the people in the local community feel like it's effective, okay, I'm not gonna argue with them.
Yeah. Also, I know many people here are calling to abolish ICE. Are you a proponent of that as well?
I feel like they're not treating people fairly or safely. What's going on with the abduction of children from their families?
I think they're being separated at the border. I know that this has happened under other presidencies too, under other administrations, and I know part of why that happens is because they're confused about who these children are. I know 80% of the women who do illegally cross over the border end up being raped. 10,000 year-over-year women are sex trafficked through the border. So there's obviously some sort of humanitarian issue going on there, and that's why Trump was calling for this wall. I just wanted to ask what your thoughts on that were too.
I think that there are real problems, and they should be addressed. They shouldn't be addressed with, just trying to block them out. Yeah. They need to be dealt with. There's a real crisis of, humanitarian issues, but I think that the administration's policies are exacerbating the conditions, not ameliorating them, and not making things better.
Yeah. Was there anything else you want to note?
No.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. So I know that he declared a national emergency to try to build a border wall now. I wanted to ask, do you think there's any merit to having a border wall?
None whatsoever.
And you don't think it could, potentially reduce the influx of, sex trafficked children or illegal immigrants or stuff like that?
No.
Okay. I also want to see, you had a Hail No sign over here. What's the reference here with this sign?
Well, it's in the kind of script that was used in Germany in the 30s.
Yeah.
So I think it has special relevance today. And Hell No can also be read as Hell No, Heil No or Hell No.
Yeah. So what's the connection with, Trump and Nazis?
Well, I think that Trump is an American Nazi. A Nazi of an American vintage. There are many different kinds of vintages of Nazis. There are Italian Nazis, there are German Nazis, there are now Hungarian Nazis, Polish Nazis.
And what defines an American Nazi?
An American Nazi is someone whose hunger for wealth or power causes him to stoop to any level in order to satisfy his needs.
And you think that's what Trump's doing?
Yes.
And how does that relate to what Nazis did? Because I didn't know, was it about wealth that Nazis originally wanted to come to power, or was it more of an ideological thing?
It was primarily for power. If you want to go back historically to Hitler's rise, it's a
just because I don't know if it's a good comparison between Hitler and Trump, because they were doing very different things.
Fascists. That's the connection.
Yeah. What do you mean? Trump and Hitler were fascists.
Fascism is the key word.
You tell him.
Yeah.
Fascists.
Yeah, Nazism is probably a misnomer. It's fascism. Right.
So what do you think makes Trump a fascist?
Complete lack of any kind of moral or ethical standards in the pursuit of satisfying his personal needs.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about that moral stuff, because one of the reasons I know Trump called for the national emergency was because he thought he could save lives in America. He talked to a lot of angel parents, and he said, a lot of gang members were caught crossing into America. So he says he's trying to protect American lives. Do you think there's any morals in trying to protect?
No, that's propaganda.
Oh, okay.
That's what's known as propaganda.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to note?
Nope.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Come on the other side.
No need.
Excuse me. Come over here.
No need for touching.
Excuse me. Hey, whoa! Why'd you spit? Yo, that's dirt. Excuse me, sir. Hey, what? I want to ask you. I'm a journalist. Okay, don't touch me. I'm making a video on the rally. Can I ask you some questions?
Absolutely.
So I want to ask. You're obviously surrounded by a lot of different protesters
Americans.
right now.
I'm surrounded by Americans. It's great.
I
love the feeling about being surrounded by Americans.
So why are you here tonight?
Because it's President's Day, and I'm celebrating the president, the 43rd president of the United States, Donald Trump.
I know Trump has called a national emergency, trying to build a south border wall.
Sure.
A lot of different people were saying that's an executive overreach thing. Do you think there's any issue with executive overreach here?
Absolutely not. When they wrote the law to build the Defense Act in 2006, there weren't invasions coming up from the south. There was just a lot of crossings. But now we're actually having invasions coming up to the border, thousands of people at a time coming at the exact same time. So absolutely, it's a national emergency.
I know a lot of people were saying that this was a humanitarian crisis because year over year, I think 80% of the women who cross.
I'm sorry to interrupt, sir. You can't have a metal pole in here.
Okay, I'll take it down. Okay, sure. Okay. I didn't know I was actually. I thought I was inside of a fenced area.
So I want to.
Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to say 80% of the women who are crossovered illegally end up getting raped, and 10,000 women are sex trafficked through the southern border year over year. Do you think a wall would help prevent those?
Sure, absolutely. A wall would help prevent it, because where they have a wall in California, the crossings, San Diego and the entire state of California, they're 90% less chance of crossing over where there's a wall when there's not a wall. So to say that walls don't work is the same thing that walls don't work in your house. Of course walls work. It's ridiculous to even assume that they do not work.
I had one last question. Some people here are calling to abolish ICE. I wanted to ask you what you think about that.
Sure. I would say let's take the New York City police off the street for just 24 hours and see what happens. It's the same thing if you take away ICE. You're basically just saying let's create lawlessness. Let's let the people take control of the law and not the police officers. So absolutely not. That's like saying take away the military. It's ridiculous.
Anything else you want to know?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm just glad that everybody came out to celebrate Donald Trump's, the President's Day, and to celebrate the 45 presidents that we've had for the last 240 years. It's great being out here. So thank you for having us.
Thank you guys so much for your time. Anyway, I could ask you guys some questions?
Why? You can ask me why he's a traitor.
Okay, so why do you think this man over here is a traitor?
Trump refuses to meet Putin.
Trump refuses to meet Putin.
With Americans in the room. He is afraid of what they will take, the notes they will take down, because he is answering to Putin. So I want to know why he supports Putin.
Let me ask.
So I want to know why he supports someone who...
Do you think every Trump supporter is a Putin supporter?
Of course.
So that's almost half the country, though.
Ask them. That's 30%.
No, I mean, I don't think that's...
I want to know why you're supporting interviewing a traitor.
Well, I'm here to report on the events going on.
Trump is a traitor. If someone works with a foreign enemy against our country, what are they?
Okay, they're
what are they? And that's what Trump is. That's what Trump is.
I'm an independent journalist. So I wanted to ask, the Senate Intel Committee recently came out with a bipartisan comprehensive report that said they didn't find anything with Trump.
That was the reporter, Ken Delaney, who reported out that was his understanding of it. But he never said direct evidence. Ken Delaney put that word in his mouth, and he said on Twitter later that that was my word.
Okay. No, I didn't know that. So thanks for clarifying.
Exactly.
So
that is a traitor.
I also wanted to ask: we're clearly anti-Trump here, but are we also anti-wall? Do you think there's any merit to having a border wall?
That's ridiculous.
A border wall.
Trump just came up with that to as a distraction.
So
he just came up with that.
The border wall?
He just came up with that in order to get people's attention, in order to...
But a lot of Americans support a border wall, so that's why I wanted to ask you.
Racist.
A border wall is racist?
To keep out who?
To keep out non-Americans, non-citizens.
Mexico. Non-citizens. Those people are scared. They're scared that brown people are the population is expanding in the United States. So they're scared of that. That's what's behind it.
So I wanted to ask, I know a lot of cities have walls already that are very effective, that work in preventing crime, specifically in San Diego. So specifically in San Diego, they have walls that help reduce crime there, and they enjoy. Should they pull down those walls then?
That's BS. Trump is an idiot, and he's a traitor. That's how Putin took advantage of him. He's been money laundering for Putin for years.
Anything else you want to know?
Coming out. Okay. The illegal activities, Jared Kushner, Trump, it's all coming out. That's how they funded the Soho Hotel. Money laundering through Stater.
Why are you guys out here today?
Why are we out here today? We don't agree with Trump's policies, especially regarding the border control. We understand that we need border security, but we don't like his policies or the way that he's going about it. We don't support it.
So do you think it's more of an executive overreach problem or like a wall problem? So are you okay with the wall and are you against the executive overreach, or do you think both are bad?
I think that if it's necessary to have a wall, then I'm not opposed to it. I just don't think that I feel like there are other ways of going about border security that a wall won't accomplish or solve.
Yeah.
And especially more specifically the treatment of the immigrants being put in cages and being separated from their families. I don't support that, and I don't think that that's an executive decision.
I want to talk a little bit more on that. I know that's been an issue for the past presidents as well, and also a lot of people are trafficked through the southern border. 80% of the women who try to cross over are unfortunately raped. They're actually sent with Plan B pills because they anticipate this stuff happening. There are 50,000 sex trafficked women year over year that are across the border coming into the United States. So it feels like there's a humanitarian issue. Do you think a wall has any merit in help lowering those numbers at all?
I think It will make an impact, but not to the effect that he is hoping it will. It'll be a very subtle impact, in which I do still believe that there's another way of going about it, of solving the problem of border security.
Yeah. I see this sign says, does this ass make my country look small? Did you want to elaborate on the sign a little bit?
No, just don't think about it too much.
That's all I got.
And your sign says, no one is free when others are oppressed. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that, too?
I think it just speaks numbers and so powerful, because it doesn't just adhere to the specific situation, but in all countries and all pieces of history, it can apply to anything.
Yeah.
And I got a backside as well.
So it says, my Mexican family has lived in South Texas for 14 generations. What about yours, Trump?
Yes.
And that's supposed to be a shout out to Mexico being annexed in parts by Texas, right?
And misconstruing the concept that all Mexicans are rapists and murderers and illegal. That's the furthest from the truth.
I think he was saying some were gang members. I know 6,000 gang members are caught on the border trying to cross back in annually. So I think there is a little bit of the issue of the crime.
Right. There is definitely crime that comes through our southern borders, but we can't misconstrue the concept of who is good and who is bad.
Yeah. I know a lot of people here are calling for abolishing ICE. Are you a proponent of that too? And I wanted to ask what you thought about that.
I'd have to look into it more. I'm not too knowledgeable on ICE itself, but yeah.
Also, well, last question. Who are your leaders? You know, who do you want to see run against Trump in 2020 and take him out?
Biden, all the way.
Joe Biden. Why Joe Biden?
Because he has so much. Wow. He has so much experience, and I feel like,
because I know he doesn't check any of the intersectional boxes off, and it felt like a lot of Democrats were emphasizing that.
I think it's totally based on the trust that we have with our previous presidency, and that's what the country needs right now, somebody that they know can trust and isn't going to pull the antics that Trump has been pulling.
Yeah. Anything else you want to note?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Thank you guys so much for your time. Why are you out here tonight?
Well, I'm here because I do believe that what's going on in the last few days in America is really crazy. To the point that I would say it's shocking. The announcing of emergency, declaring emergency on the border is absolutely fake and nonsensical. And
so I want to ask, do you think there's any, humanitarian issues going on at the border right now?
Well, I don't think there is any humanitarian issue going on because, even if there is, let's say, there are people crossing the border, or if we see once in a while caravans of thousands of people crossing, this is not humanitarian problem. This is pretty much something that we have to deal with. We have to find solution how to approach and what kind of things we need to have done.
Sure.
But building a wall, it's the most insane and
I know it's
stupid
worked.
act.
So I know it's worked in places, border cities such as El Paso and San Diego. So should they be able to keep the borders they have?
Well, look, of course, and I think there is nothing wrong with it. At least, look, this was during Obama's administration when they were actually building walls.
And decades ago, all the Democrats were pro-walls, for the
so
record.
I am quite aware of it, but, to
But so why does that make... So, because I see you have the resist Trump, and then in it's resist Trumpism, and then within the Trumpism is the SS sign. So what's the relationship between Trump and the Nazis? Because politicians in the United States have wanted to build walls for decades.
Because what happened is, as soon as Trump appeared in public space, to someone who grew up in former communist country, I grew up in Poland, with very painful past, World War II, Holocaust. To me, the dynamic and everything that was happening so fast was a direct deja vu to 1935 and Hitler grabbing power in Germany.
You don't think it's a little bit disingenuous to compare the rise of Hitler to the rise of Trump, though?
Well, no, no, not at all. Listen,
I think that's insulting to what the Nazis did versus what Trump is doing in the country.
No, not really, because there are really parts that I feel absolutely direct connection. Well, such as discriminating against immigrants, against
illegal immigrants.
Well, systematic demonization of Mexicans. According to Adolf Hitler, Jews were also quote unquote illegal.
Well, subhuman, but I don't think Trump's ever calling these Mexicans subhuman. Because there's a difference between saying some illegal immigrants are criminals, because some like 6,000 odd gang members try to get caught crossing the border each year.
Yeah, but okay.
But to the general
completely ignoring like transgender people, you know?
How's he ignore? What has Trump done to the transgender community that you think is?
Look, ask any Republican and ask any Trump supporters about like what is their point of view on this, you know?
But is Trump doing something to harm the LGBT community? Did he?
Well, they are next, pretty much, you know. After
like kicking them out, or are we going to make? We're not going to let LGBT people into the country. Do you think? What's the?
Absolutely. Do you think if someone will be like HIV positive, it will be welcome in America? Do you think
they are now?
Well, but do you think
test
Republicans don't want to reverse that?
I'm not going to. Well, not reverse it because it's never been done. And no, I don't think so. I don't think Republicans want to discriminate people based on their health issues.
Getting to this issue from like asking me about.
Well, no, because the question is, Trump is saying that there's a humanitarian issue. So 10,000 women are sex trafficked across the border each year. 80% of the women who cross over end up getting raped.
Fake than whatever he calls.
Do you think those stats are fake?
He's using examples of women being like duct. This is
80% of the women who cross over end up getting raped.
That's
NBC? Fact? That's NBC saying that.
Okay, but if this is really 10,000 women every day,
every year, 10,000 women are sex trafficked.
Protect them. Let's take action to protect them.
That's what I'm saying.
Not keep them out. Not cage them and cage their children.
Well, caging the children, that's another. I mean, look, this is a deja vu of Nazi Germany. America is really kind of reaching this point that we are being viewed by the rest of the world as this like really creatures that have no empathy. And this is ridiculous.
If you think the world's thinking that, though, then why are people still trying to come here illegally?
Because they are minority, you know, and people believe America was built by immigrants. This is a country of immigrants. His father was Nazi supporter, but immigrant.
I don't know about that. I don't.
Absolutely.
His father was a Nazi supporter.
Isn't that his father? His father appeared and was stopped on some kind of KKK rally in Deep South.
I'm not familiar with that. I couldn't tell you.
That was his dad.
His dad was stabbed in.
And as the whatever Upper East Side crowd, Yorkville in before pre-World War II. I am totally convinced he was a Nazi supporter and he was a racist. And even though he was a success.
Anything else you want to note?
No, this is it. This is great.
Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to ask you first and foremost, why are you out here? I see your sign says no more Trump, no more Putin. So what's going on out here?
We have to not just save America, we have to save the world. He's screwing up the whole world.
And how do you think Trump's screwing up the whole world?
He's getting rid of the Western alliance. We've had 70 years of an alliance with Europe, Canada, England. He's getting rid of that.
I mean, are we not alliances? We're not in an alliance with them anymore? I mean,
pardon?
Are we not in an alliance with those countries anymore?
Well, he's screwing up that alliance. And it said in the Times today, it pointed out that Europe is looking now to trust Russia and China more than the U.S.
It sounds like it sounds like the Europeans are the bad if they're going to Russia. I mean,
no, but
because I mean the sign says no.
Camp.
Pardon?
He's with Trump's camp.
I'm not with any particular camp.
They go around and they try to antagonize.
Did I ask you anything unfair? Did you think I asked you anything unfair? Thank you, sir. So why are you guys out here this evening?
Why else would we be out here? This is Trump. This is celebrating Trump, and we're here to really show him off and show all his attributes. He's a great guy, Look at him doing his thing. He's not afraid to do what he wants to do. You know what I mean? Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Really showing off his.
So do you think Trump should be impeached? Because I mean,
it's
almost like he grabbed me for there. For some
hold on a second. Let me get that up here. Okay. Well, you know what? Do I think he should be impeached? Would we miss him?
I don't know if I'd miss this Trump.
Darn, you know what? It's kind of exciting, but you know what? I think when it's the time to go, he's going to go. And unfortunately, we're taking care of things right here, showing off his character, really showing off his lovely highlights that he has. He's a great guy.
Do you think Trump has sex like this?
No, I don't think he moves.
Oh.
Yeah.
You think he's a lazy lover?
Yeah, I think that this is a more active Trump. You know what I mean? This is the inner Trump that never gets revealed because he's kind of just like a lump on the outside.
So why are you out here today? We have the anti-Trump, they're calling it a fake national emergency over here. So why are you out here today?
Because I knew that they would be out here. They're not here because he's president. That they're against him as a person, not as the president. These people are not political activists. They're personal activists. And they'll keep being personal activists. Because every time I ask them, what's one policy that you're against, they really talk about him grabbing women inside of some tour bus. This guy over here, he's lost his mind.
So I wanted to ask, I know a lot of people are concerned because they think this is an executive overreach problem. Do you think there's any issue with executive overreach here?
My phone just died. What?
I wanted to ask, so a lot of people are worried that this is an executive overreach problem. What do you think about that?
Okay, right now what we're dealing with is a crisis on the southern border. Those who live there will even tell you that there's a crisis. So, I think we should have had this wall being built a long time ago. But if he's building it now, God bless him. Build that wall, save us all.
So I want to ask, so Trump has another opportunity to shut down the government. Do you think he should in order to try to, again, negotiate with the Democrats for this?
See, that's the problem, though, because it's not just the Democrats. There's also Republicans that are going against him as well. It's like when we say he won the Senate, he didn't really win the Senate, because when it came time to pull the troops out of Syria, 4 senators sided with him. 4 senators.
And I know as recently as a couple of decades ago, many Democrats were pro-wall. I wanted to ask you about the flip-flopping on the Democrat side for this wall.
It's all about being anti-Trump. It has nothing to do with going against Republicans or even, if anything, they're together. Everyone's going against Trump. So that's one thing I like about Trump is that he's the outsider. He's dismantling the two-party system, which we should all help him do, actually. But you know what? A lot of people are pushing for it. Democrats are Democrats are evil. Republicans are good. I don't believe that. I believe there's good people and there's evil people, of course, or people with evil intentions. And, we just have to save our country. And that's something we're not focused on because we rather divide ourselves between left and right, liberal, conservative, Democrat, and Republican. I want to see the American. I don't care about the people wearing the red or the people wearing the blue. I care about the red, white, and blue.
So I see you have a sign over here that says Trump was put in, and I wanted to ask, what does this sign mean?
Well, this is of the opinion that there's enough evidence showing that he made a deal with the Russians to accept help during the election, and that's treason. Not supposed to do that. No quid pro quo, nothing of value, and he had a Trump Tower deal that was of great value.
So I want to ask, do you think the smoking gun is a deal? What is the smoking gun here? Because I know the Senate Intel Committee recently came out and said they couldn't find anything. That was a bipartisan group. Mueller hasn't come out with anything yet. So I want to ask you, what do you think the smoking gun is here?
I think the Republicans are trying to suppress evidence, and the smoking gun is when Trump found out about the Trump Tower meeting with Kushner and his son, and he made up a cover story. If you found out that the Russians are trying to solicit illegal emails and sensitive data that they're not supposed to have as a foreign power, you're supposed to report that to the authorities. Not only didn't he do that, they created a cover story, and it seemed as though Trump was directly involved in drafting the memo.
All right, so I hope the Senate Intel Committee looks into that. I wanted to ask, because people here were saying that this is a fake national emergency. Do you think there's any national emergency or maybe a humanitarian emergency at the southern border?
Yes, there's a humanitarian crisis, and the solution is comprehensive reform, bipartisan compromise that happened before. It wasn't easy to get, and nobody was happy, but that's how the process is supposed to work.
So more like a wall, any border protections, or because I know 80% of the women who are illegally immigrate through the border are raped, and then year over year there are about 10,000 women who are sex trafficked through the southern border.
Right, and if they can come to America, then they'll stop being raped. So the wall is going to...
Sex trafficked to America.
Right, well, it goes both ways, obviously, and when there's unaccompanied minor, God knows what can happen, but the parents are so desperate that they feel like it's better off if they can get asylum in the U.S., so they're trying to do that, and, in some cases a wall might be smart, but, border protection, border security, it's going to look very different, because in 10 to 15 years, you're going to have drones that can raise a body over the wall.
So you still want border protection?
Yes, the Democrats agreed to border protection a long time ago. Billions of
Not
dollars.
the Democratic Socialists nowadays, but now the Democrats, a couple of decades, the Democrats, that was a mainstream thing, the wall.
Well, you know, I don't know about before, but you know, today, based on the current levels of immigration, there are more people that are coming in airports and overstaying their visa, and we're just letting them through. So we don't. If we had a mechanism for that, we could probably stem the flow. Also, you have to go after the employers who are giving these people jobs here because they're creating the market. They're creating.
So you think illegal immigrants shouldn't be able to be hired in the United States?
No, I believe a comprehensive plan would allow illegal immigration, and it's not what the Republicans or Democrats exactly want, but it's a compromise to allow certain levels in, like we always have, to fulfill the needs of the jobs and the you know, the labor that the, you know, Americans don't want to do in some cases. And you know, we should have flexible migration where they can come for seasonal work. They just want to support their families so they don't starve to death. And if they could do that in their home countries, or maybe just come here seasonally, that would probably be a win-win. Comprehensive plan means everybody buys in.
I also wanted to ask, I know many people here are supporters of abolishing ICE. I wanted to ask, do you want to abolish ICE, and what do you think about that?
Well, ICE was rolled into Department of Homeland Security, and a lot of different parts were put together. So I would say we should abolish the parts of ICE that are separating families and that are abusive and that are unaccountable, but that obviously some parts we need because it's basic security from criminal element and public safety.
Anything else you want to note?
I think that we should. I think the Senate should take a vow that they're going to make everything public. I think the new Attorney General should take a vow to make everything public and put it on the table. And if they try to suppress actual evidence of crimes, then they're complicit, and that we have to be on the lookout.
So if they all came out and said they couldn't find any evidence of anything Russia-related, would you accept their conclusions?
If Mueller signed off on the report and both houses signed off on the report, I mean, we have channels for this, but you know, it's not legal to take evidence and suppress it and prevent it from becoming public. We found out that's what happened during Nixon and Watergate. Part of the exit deal was to not make things public, and there was like a 50-count indictment against Agnew and against Nixon that was suppressed all the way up until like 3 months ago.
Thank you. Anything else you want to know?
No, that's it.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. So I wanted to ask you first and foremost why you're out here. I see you have the Build the Wall sign here, so if you could tell me a little bit more about that.
Okay, the purpose of their rally is Trump got emergency funding to build the wall. He knows exactly what he's doing. These people, for some reason, think you can have a country without a wall. Trump understands that you can. I am absolutely positive that no matter what Trump did, these people would never change their basic stance that they hate America. Bottom line is they hate America.
So a lot of the detractors here were saying that this is an executive overreach. Do you think there's an executive overreach here?
No. I think they're full of shit. They know about the rules and regulations governing executive powers. Of course they don't. They're told to parrot something, and that's what they do.
So Trump was calling it a national emergency, a humanitarian issue. Do you think it's a humanitarian issue, and what going on there makes it that?
Right. I mean, I would say the thousands of women who were raped along the way trying to reach the border, if they don't consider that a humanitarian issue, then there's something seriously wrong with them. So obviously it is a humanitarian issue.
I know they've had small-scale success stories with the wall. So in El Paso, they really enjoyed their wall there. They said it reduced crime there. In San Diego, they said it worked there and it reduced crime there. I want to ask, do you think this is a solution that would work for the whole border, though?
Of course it would work. I mean, we sent a man to the moon. We cannot put a fence on the border. I mean, I personally don't think you need a 30-foot see-through fence. I would say a coil of barbed wire would do the trick, so yes. It would
help the Border Patrol agents who recommend that there be a wall, right?
And who die on a regular basis trying to do their job. Why is it all of the Border Patrol agents want the wall? Aren't they the first experts on the matter?
Yeah. So I also wanted to ask, since we are talking about, you know, people dying, about the Angel families, what do you think about the Angel families and how they've received pushback and support throwing themselves in this debate?
Okay. I think that if you have lost a child to an illegal alien, you are allowed to do whatever is necessary to ease your grief. So if they can do it best by coming out and helping another family not lose their son or daughter, then I'm all for them. It's amazing to me no Democratic politician wants to be seen with these angel families.
Anything else you want to note?
I think that's it.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. So why are you out here tonight?
I'm here to have my voice heard.
And so I know a lot of people here are calling it a fake national emergency and are calling for Trump to be impeached. Do you think Trump should be impeached?
I'd like him to be impeached. I'm not sure if that's the best solution for our country. I think he should really step down, given the facts that we already know about his collusion with Russia and his overstepping of his presidential bounds and his constitutional limits.
So I know the Senate Intel Committee just came out with a bipartisan report saying they didn't find anything with Russia-related collusion. Mueller hasn't came out with his report yet, so we can't really speak on that. But there hasn't been evidence of that. Is there anything else that you could point to that you have evidence for like a reason to impeach Trump, like maybe the national emergency, or what do you think?
Well, what about the whole meeting between his son and a Russian agent promising dirt on Hillary Clinton? If that's not collusion and against the best interests of the country as a whole, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Do you think there's any merit to a wall on the southern border, and are you against or for the wall?
I'm against the wall. I mean, I think it's a tremendous waste of our funds. He's already driven up the deficit a tremendous amount, and this is only going to drive it up more. And it's going to be ineffective for what he wants to do. It's just a symbol to placate his base who...
Do you think it could lower illegal immigration at all? Or I know one of the things that Trump was saying is that it's a humanitarian issue because 80% of the women that cross the border end up being raped because they're being smuggled by coyotes. A lot of people end up dying. People are separated by their parents and they're not taken over the border with their parents. So we're saying there's a humanitarian issue going down on there. Could you speak to that at all?
I believe that part of that is true. There's, coyotes definitely prey upon the vulnerable, and that's a problem. But I think instead of building a wall, if they devoted half as much of the resources to better funding our immigration courts so that asylum claims could be processed more quickly.
Well, do you think everybody who's trying to come here illegally are asylum seekers, or more like, I know many are seeking to escape violence, but many are also just seeking a better life, like an economic refugee, if you will. Do you think that's enough merit to have somebody come into the country?
Well, it depends. It depends on the facts, and it depends on the person. And obviously...
I want to take a closer look at the sign. So the tales are immigration is a national emergency, a wall will keep out drugs, and all immigrants are criminals. So these are the tales that you're pinning on here. Could you talk a little bit more about the sign?
Sure. So my wife and I made this sign. It's designed to be a party game so that you can invite some of your more liberal friends over for a party, and you put a pot of money together, and then you play the game, and whoever wins the game gets to donate the money to their charity of their choosing.
Do you think there's any way to be civil with, conservatives on the other side? Because I know you said you can invite your liberal friends over, but do you have any conservative friends you can invite over for maybe another game? Do you get along with conservatives and Republicans in general?
I'm sure I have conservatives in my family, and it's definitely getting harder and harder to have a civilized conversation with them, but we still try and talk about things.
Great. Anything else you want to know?
Nope.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Hate makes America great.
Hey everybody, thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode. I really want to pose the question back to you. What do you think about Trump calling a national emergency and trying to build this wall? Do you think this has any merit? Let me know what you think down in the comments. If this is your first time here, guys, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, stay barely informed.
Love, not hate, makes America great. Love, not hate.
Let's do an intro like that.